this morning we're discussing the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset and how we can get our fellow students on campus to fashion their mind, to program their mind towards college success and beyond when you leave the school. And I have with me in the studio Dr. O'Sullivan and then Kate Campisi and Leo Farias. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So, Dr. O'Sullivan, let me bring up this question. We talked previously about a fixed mindset. How would you explain what a growth mindset is to students?
Okay. And I do this presentation at faculty's invitation for their students to help them and their students understand that a growth mindset is a belief that what your brain is capable of doing is not set for life. It can change over time when the brain is exercised, when it is worked, when we put this to use steadily over time. Just as muscles can grow and get stronger and better endurance, the brain can grow. I mentioned earlier, this is a result of fairly recent research that confirms something that wasn't widely known for a long time. There's many very smart people thought that IQ was fixed. You take an IQ test, that's it for life. There's a lot of evidence that IQ can be changed, including with studying, including with extended brain work over time. And when students have that belief, when learners have that belief, students of any age doing anything, some wonderful things happen. They are less afraid to try new things. They're willing to venture into new areas, test themselves. They're willing to do something where they might fail. And when they do struggle or fail, they're not crushed. They're more resilient. And they say, what can I learn from this, and how can I do this again better? These are the sort of behaviors that, if you ask any professor, will tell you, these are the behaviors that the best students, how they got to be the best students, and those that are on their way to becoming the best students. They're always willing to try something new. They want to hear the feedback, even if they know it's going to be critical, because that's the only way they recognize they're going to learn. And they're willing to work hard because they have this belief, the harder I work, the more my brain can grow in its capacity. What's wonderful is the recent research says that's not just a nice positive view, it actually is supported by the research. When they examine the human brain, they see the results of extended work. And that is an extraordinary thing, and that's why I've been working with my colleagues on campus to bring this to faculty and to bring it to students.
Thank you very much. And we had a technical difficulty earlier, so I will bring back some of the questions I asked you earlier for the sake of those who are watching us on TV and for future referencing. So I'll bring back the question of what a fixed mindset is so that at least we can have a comparison between the two. But my question to you, Kat, can you tell or do you know if there's been an improvement in what you do as a student in college? Do you think you're doing better now as a student than when you were in high school?
Well, I think now I am more aware of working smarter, not harder, due to just limited time. I don't necessarily do repetition and reading over and over, but I can tell myself, okay, I'm going to look at this, I'm going to try and understand it throughout my day, and then I'm going to say that's it, because I actually have a tendency to overstudy.
Okay, and that's a good thing. I brought the two of you as students so that at least I can learn from you how you study, because both of you are smart, and I think it will help every student that is watching us. How about you, Leo?
How do I study?
Not how you study. I'll come back to specifically what you do, but have you seen any growth in terms of the pattern to which you study? Have you seen any improvement in your academic grades? Have you seen any improvement of the sort?
Yeah, I think definitely over the last, since I started college, I've gotten to be a better student. I feel like I've become a better student, from quarter to quarter. And when I'm not so good at a student, I know exactly what I'm doing wrong, It's like, for now, I don't, I love the growth mindset, that's what I'm going to try to strive to be like, now. But definitely, I feel like I'm a lot better student, now than I was when I first started college.
Okay.
And a lot of that has to do with, you know, the little things that I've learned, going to a CAT set, you know, working smarter, not harder. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, because we really don't have a lot of time as students. You know, many of us work or are involved in extracurricular activities, or we're doing this and that. And so we want to work smarter, not harder. And there are certain things that I've learned to do that allow me to work smarter, make the most out of my time, and still be effective.
You share that with me. I don't want you to leak those information at this moment. But let me bring in Dr. O'Sullivan. Whilst growing, I've always been hearing this and reading from books and going to seminars, and you hear people saying that, as a man thinketh, so is he, or basically the way you think and perceive things, that is who you are. So let's say you tell yourself that I'm not going to be able to do this. You won't be able to do that. If you tell yourself that I will succeed in this, I will succeed in that. Does that have any relationship with growth mindset?
I think it does. I recently ran across, again, a phrase, maybe a bumper sticker or a T-shirt, something like that, that says, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're going to be right, which is speaking to that your belief can make a difference. Now, it's worthwhile a point of caution. There's nothing in the research that says, say, if I decide that I want to be a world-class runner right now, or I want to win a Nobel Prize, all I have to do is work hard, hard, hard. We are born and we have certain capacities. So this isn't saying that you can do anything you want. You just have to work hard. What it's saying is that you likely have a capacity that you haven't realized yet, probably more than you believe you're capable of doing. When you work hard, you're going to go farther and reach more of your God-given potential than you would have otherwise. So this is not unrealistic. This is not pie in the sky. It is very much grounded in the day-to-day. We want to reach our own fullest capacities and make sure that we are not limited by our beliefs, but only limited by our capacity to work and to grow to our fullest extent.
Okay. And that would bring me back to the question I was telling you earlier. At this point, I don't know if you want to touch bases on a fixed mindset, what a fixed mindset is. And again, I'm asking you to talk about this because we had a technical difficulty, so our listeners, those watching us live, would understand the difference, and then we can progress from that.
Sure. I said earlier the growth mindset was a deep belief that you can grow your mental capacity. You can grow your capacities in many ways in yourself. And that belief leads to many other behaviors that actually end up making that belief come true. Trying new things, working hard, open to feedback, resilient in the face of struggles or failures. Those are things that the success people have always done. So the belief leads to success. On the fixed mindset, it's a belief, and I said this earlier, that many, many very educated, very smart people actually thought was true for a long time, is that what you are born with, like the color of your eyes, is set for life. If you have an IQ test, you have it, say, maybe in your elementary school or high school, and that's your IQ, well, that's it for life. The recent research says that that's not true, but that belief that what I have is all I have leads to the sort of behaviors that interfere with some of success, such as, I'm not going to work hard because only those who work hard, that signals they're not as smart as they could be. There's smart people and there's not so smart people, and that's it, and that's it for life. So they're not willing to work hard, they're not willing to try new things because it might reveal their own limitations. Not only do they not want their peers to see that, they may not want to fully recognize that themselves. So they avoid challenges. They try to avoid feedback that might confirm that you have some limitations here. And avoiding challenges, not willing to work hard, resistant to messages that indicate where you need to improve. Those are the behaviors that tend to interfere with success, tend to have someone really stuck. So again, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're going to be right either way. So it does speak to the idea that your beliefs do have a surprisingly important impact on your behaviors that lead to success or not.
Thank you very much. You know, I believe we have parents watching us this morning, and I want to ask both of you, and then including myself, sometimes I've had people ask me, how do you do it in everything that you do, that you seem to be able to get it done? And I believe that part of the reason is what feedback we get from our parents as to whether your parents tell you that, oh, you can do it, try it, or parents telling you that you're dumb and you won't amount to anything or you can't achieve anything. Tell me, growing up, what kind of feedback came from your parents, your friends and siblings around you? Was it a feedback that encourages you to try, or a feedback that tells you that you can do it, you're not born to do this? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I think I received a lot of positive feedback from my parents at a young age.
Okay.
But also at the same time, there was some pressure. If I had, let's say, a B, it was, oh, maybe just a few more little points and you could bump it up to an A. But also, at the same time, they were supportive no matter what the outcome was. They would say, as long as you tried your hardest, that's okay. You know, I might not be as good at this as another subject, and that's okay, because not everybody is good at everything. And yeah.
But did they encourage you to let you know that you can do better next time, so you know that there is still room for improvement? Or did they make you feel like, oh, why didn't you get this? You should have gotten an A, and that is what I'm looking for?
Yeah, there's always room for improvement with more learning as you go further into a course, because obviously you won't know as much at the beginning going into a course as you will coming out of it. So there's always something to gain.
Okay. And Leo, how about you? What kind of feedback did you receive growing up, like from your parents, from friends, and in school, and from your teachers?
Yeah, my mom was really supportive. She still is really supportive, and you're making me think that that part of it really encouraged me in life, because it usually pushed me into areas that normally I might be too shy to try, you know, like maybe a sport or maybe trying to do something, you know. My dad was a little bit more pessimistic. He was more like, hey, why are you doing that? You shouldn't even do that. So I received like both viewpoints, right? And so definitely like hanging around with my mom a lot more than my dad. But now, you know, in the present day, I love hanging around people that are going to push me, people that are going to push me out of my comfort zone, because I want to grow as a person, you know. For me, like the journey part of it, the let's try this, you know, is more important than if I succeed or if I fail. I'm more scared of not trying than of failure. You know, failure you can learn from, and sometimes it's a very good thing, because then you know exactly what to do to then be successful, you know. So definitely hanging around positive people is probably one of the most important things for me in life in general, you know.
Okay. Dr. O'Sullivan, you wanted to say something?
Yes, this is a wonderful segue to another element of the research that Carol Dweck at Stanford and many of our colleagues have been building for several years now. And it's the nature and quality of feedback. Okay. What's fascinating as we read this is that it's possible that parents, well-meaning parents, have been actually unintentionally reinforcing a fixed mindset. Okay. And that's illustrated by the study in which they have children come up, and they did a lot of the research with, say, elementary school children. And you can find this video online on YouTube. If you search Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, and there's this 3.5-minute one. And the students, and they explain their study. The students come up and they give them some puzzles to do. And the students, the children spend some time doing the puzzle, and the only difference is for some students, they say, you did very well. You must be very smart. Okay. The only difference is the other students got, you did very well. You must have worked hard at that. That's the only difference, that small tweak in language. And then they had the children come back and say, would you like to do more puzzles like the ones you just did, or ones that are more difficult that you might not be able to get? It wasn't a perfect division, but many more of the students who were praised for the hard work as opposed to being smart wanted to try the harder puzzles. Wow. So and those that were praised for being smart tended to want to do the puzzles that, in the growth mindset research, confirms that they are smart. So when parents and teachers and mentors of coaches, it helps us understand the type of praise that is going to be most supportive. We want to be supportive and say, you must be very talented. You did very well in the basketball court. You got straight A's. You must be a smart kid. That speaks to and helps trigger a fixed mindset in that moment and the decisions that follow from that. When I read this, I started thinking about the sort of praise I gave my own children. And I find myself now very, very mindful of when my daughter Claire was on a basketball team and I saw her play and her team won the local championship for the 8th grade. My praise to her was, Claire, you have worked so hard at this. The improvement shows. Well done. I hope you're very proud of yourself. As opposed to, you were born with a talent. You know, your dad was an athlete, your mom was an athlete. You must be born to it. I made sure that was not the message, and it was in fact her hard work. But that's how we can reinforce a growth mindset when we praise the work that people put in, the effort, trying new things, being persistent even when you struggle. Those are the messages that reinforce a growth mindset. Again, our well-meaning but maybe misguided attempt to praise them by saying, you're smart or you're talented, that tends to prompt the learners to stay safe and to protect that image rather than being ventured into something new. So I thought that was very important for me to learn.
That is a wonderful thing, and I'm happy you brought this one up, because I believe that the kind of environment we set in our homes, that is what in the long run determines how successful we become as people. But at this point, I'll take a quick commercial break and then we'll come right back to talk on that same issue again. Listeners, you're listening to us live on KCPR 91.3 FM. And in case you're watching us on TV, this is Time with Eric, and you're watching us live on CPTV. We'll run for a quick commercial break and then we will be right back.
You're doing great. We're gonna try this again, okay?
Okay.
Wheels, pedals, handlebar, brakes. Sit up straight, keep your weight in the center, keep your eyes on the road, hands on the grips, butt in the seat. If we feel ourselves falling, what do?
Just keep
pedaling. Good girl. Now remember, it's all about balance and steering. Steer with your hands, steer with your body. Steer into the corners and you stay out of trouble. And the bell's your buddy, so go ahead and ding that. All right, you ready? Here we go. Pedal, honey, pedal. There you go, you're a bike rider.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
Welcome back, listeners. If you're listening to us on KCPR 91.3 FM, San Luis Obispo, this is Time with Eric. And in case you're watching us on TV, this is CPTV. And what we're discussing this morning is how to fix your mindset for success as a student, and when you leave college, how you continue to grow your mind. So let me come back to you again, Dr. O'Sullivan. We're talking about how our parents should deal with us in order to have whether a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. I will share this one with you. When I was in, I think here you call it grade 6, 6th grade. I think when I was still in 6th grade, you won't believe it, I still couldn't write my name. And it was shocking. I spoke with my dad about it, and I think he said something that is to what you have said, that it's about growing and saying that, oh, if you work hard, you'll get it. So this is what he told me. He's like, well, some people are not smart when they're young, but they keep getting smarter whilst they grow. And I remember that now. And within, I think, 6 days of that, I was able to write my whole name, about 15, my first name, middle name, and last name. So that was where I realized that with more work, with more improvement, always getting determined that, oh, I failed here, but if I work a little bit harder, I'll be able to get it done. I realized that thing really, really helps. So just a quick question to you. You were a father. I mean, the three of us having had kids before. You made mention a little bit of how you talk to your kids, but how have you come to deal with your kids to have them have a growth mindset instead of a fixed, knowing what you know now and you being a guru when it comes to this field?
I shared briefly earlier, for example, when my children are successful or accomplish something notable in athletics, I focus on their hard work.
Okay.
My children are amazing, and they bring home report cards that are quite good. The same thing, I'm tempted to, my first impulse might be to say, wow, you're just like your old man, because I got good grades, and you know, that's something that happens, and you might become a college professor. But I make sure that what I speak to is their consistent work every night on homework, the day-to-day work that makes a difference.
Okay.
And this is a message that is so important at this early level. One of the nice things to hear is that where my son Sam goes to school at Bishop's Peak, growth mindset, this whole mindset, is a part of their curriculum.
Okay.
I told him this morning, oh yes, I'm going over to Cal Poly. They want to interview, have a discussion about mindset. And he said, oh, we're learning about that in school.
Wow.
And we have seen the work that his teachers send home, wonderful teachers, and it's a lot of reflection. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are you going to be working on? What are your goals? And how are you going to get there? The sort of questions that prompt even a 11-year-old to be thinking about how they're going to achieve their goals and what they need to do to get there and how they're going to work at things. So it's a very positive, positive message to the students. And here's an entire elementary school. I know they're not the only one, and it's a wonderful thing as these students have come to college, made it to college successful, and have not had maybe the benefit of that message. You think what an asset it will be to come into college, knowing that there's so much more I have to learn. I'm eager to try new things that I haven't tried before, because even if I struggle, even if I fail, even if I might look a little bit silly, what I care most about is I want to try, and I want to see what my potential is in every arena of life, whether it be music, whether it be athletics, whether it be in academics, whether it be in relationships. And I have incorporated this deeply into my thinking and the way I support my children in their own growth.
Thank you very much. The next question I'll ask you, Dr. O'Sullivan, but I want to speak to my colleagues first before I come, is what Cal Poly is doing to get freshmen to understand this for the long 4-year stay in Cal Poly, and whether we have any data on students to know how improved they've been from year 1 until they graduate. So I'll come back to you on that. Kate, I want you to get personal with me here. You being a successful student, somebody will ask, or you will read, what do successful students do? What do you do? How do you study?
Well, I think sleep is very important, and also in knowing myself, I realized that I cannot study well if I haven't had enough rest.
Okay.
And I feel that I didn't get enough rest in high school, but now that I'm in college, I can rest more, thus effectively study. And also it's important to find a place where you can study, whether that's your room or the library or even one of the buildings on campus, where you won't be distracted by friends or your phone necessarily.
Okay, so if I want to reiterate what you said, sleep is very important.
It is very important.
And then where you study is also very important to avoid distraction.
Yes.
Okay, so Leo, what do successful students do, like yourself? What do you do? How do you make the grades
I think, honestly, I'll go ahead and say it, but just to go right off what Kat said, I think having a time when you know you're most effective, like I know I study best at night, so I know that it's okay in the daytime if I don't study as much, because I know that's normally not when I study, not when I feel like that groove of studying. But anyways, what do I do? I think to be really genuine, know my limitations. You know, like I know what my limitations are.
Okay.
And so when I have certain limitations, then that's when I know that I need to, I need to create a study group. You know, I need to go and get a tutor.
Okay.
I need to go and talk to the professor and get better understanding. You know,
Okay.
I need to ask questions. That's a really huge thing.
Okay.
I think just really knowing my limitations is kind of allows me to be stronger in those areas. You know,
Okay.
and I think it's okay to ask for help. I think sometimes we think it's not okay to ask for help, where it's perfectly fine to get a tutor if you're taking a subject that might be hard. It doesn't make you any less dumb.
Okay.
Or it makes you smarter. Because you're going to get a better grade.
Because sometimes in class we tend to think and believe that asking questions mean that you don't know anything or you are dumb. I'm happy you said that. Kate, you wanted to add something to it?
Yeah, so I also underestimated the power of staying organized.
Okay.
So it's really important to write down all your assignments in a planner. I find that really helpful, to draw circles next to them so I can check them off. That way I feel accomplished after studying a specific thing. And also to prioritize your time based on, do I have a midterm next week or tomorrow? Which do I need to study more?
Okay, so have a plan yourself, and then be very time conscious. What am I doing with my time? Basically, that's what we're saying. Dr. O'Sullivan, I was asking you a question earlier.
Yes.
How do we program our first year incoming students? And again, I must say that Cal Poly for the first time had a record-breaking application, over 50,000 students applying. The few that are selected, how do we get them to understand these two very important variables we have on the table? And do we have any data to show that Cal Poly has really changed the mindset of students before they graduate?
What has been very interesting is to see some data that my colleague Robin Parent, she's an instructional specialist in the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology, she has been collecting from freshmen who attend. They give them a choice of number of workshops. And one of the workshops during that week of welcome that she has been providing is our mindset workshop, where we explain to them the difference between fixed and growth and the behaviors that go with each, and why a growth mindset is backed by research and will likely help them be as successful as possible. We have collected data from the students beforehand. It's interesting to see that in the last 2 years, the freshmen coming in tend to be on the growth mindset side of it. After this workshop, they're very strongly growth mindset.
Wow.
So even just a short, 50-minute workshop, the way they express their belief that intelligence can change if you work hard, they're much more committed to that, which is a very good thing. What was especially interesting is that she also asked them several questions. What would it feel like to be in a class with a fixed mindset professor? And then we asked them, what would it feel like to be in a class with a growth mindset professor, a professor who understood growth mindset and worked with the students with a growth mindset, or a fixed mindset? The differences were extraordinary. The way the students, what they hand wrote about how they would feel about a fixed mindset professor, be things like, I'm going to be fearful, it's going to be difficult, I'm not going to enjoy it, I probably won't learn as much. The sort of anxiety-provoking experience that we know would be counterproductive to a positive learning atmosphere. In contrast, when their responses to how would you feel with a growth mindset professor, they said things like, not afraid to ask questions, inspired, felt supported. The differences were amazing, which allows us to talk when we talk to Cal Poly professors to say, here's the research, here's the sort of things you can do to encourage your students to have a growth mindset. And by the way, this is likely the affective experience they will have when you express your confidence in their ability to grow, in your knowledge of the research, and the way you structure your class that lets them have some failures without it just sinking their grade, having a chance to learn from their mistakes and grow from their mistakes. When they design a course like that, it tends to reinforce a growth mindset. So I think that's valuable for Cal Poly faculty to know.
Okay, I'll come back right to you. And then listeners listening to us on KCPR 101.3, our time is up on radio. And next week, I have a program we call Stars to Watch. There are students in Cal Poly that are making impacts, people that I want you to learn from. So we bring in a couple of students that we've identified that are making a huge impact in Cal Poly, and I would want you to tune in next week Sunday to listen to them. But if you're watching us on TV, we'll still have about 5 more minutes to cover a few grounds. So thank you for listening to us this time with Eric. If you're on radio, next week we'll be right back. Have a wonderful day. So let me come back to you, Dr. O'Sullivan. So in the next 5 minutes, from your perspective, I've heard from students how they study, how we do it. What do we have to do to become successful students?
Both Leo and Kat have touched on some very important things that the research that is very close, very complementary to the mindset research has said leads to success. The term that's used, it's a fairly technical term, but it's called metacognition. Okay. And metacognitive skills mean that you're thinking about your thinking. You're aware of your own thinking. And in their cases, they both gave good examples of they are monitoring their studying. They're thinking and saying, well, this worked pretty well, or this didn't work so well. I need to have a quiet place to study where I won't be distracted because I realize my studying wasn't as effective when I was in a place that I was distracted. Or when Leo's saying, I find that I learn more working with other students. That gives me a chance, you didn't say this, but I'm assuming this is true, I get a chance to test my knowledge and say some things and have my fellow students say, well, that's not how I understand it. So you get to have a conversation,
That's right.
and your own brain is running the thoughts through it, as opposed to rereading and rereading some notes that you might have. So that gives you that practice. Your awareness that that is more effective is a metacognitive skill. I would say that this whole mindset, being aware of your beliefs, being aware of your actions that flow from your beliefs, is a metacognitive exercise. And as I work with Cal Poly faculty, we encourage them to be aware of the value of supporting students in their skills with metacognitive activities, so that the students are going to be more effective at learning the topic of the course.
Okay.
I'm here, I want them to say, I'm here not just to teach biology or physiology or math or engineering. I'm also here to help students learn what it is that I'm here to teach them. That is somewhat new to some professors, but as you suggested, there's many professors who are doing that. I'm hoping to help them sharpen that skill, emphasize it more. More students will be more successful when they are more effective at learning what they're there to learn. So these are sort of things that help, I think, bringing in this new research, help Cal Poly faculty and students stay at the forefront, because we can't be teaching and learning the way we've been teaching and learning 20 years ago. There's so much more new knowledge that we can bring in, and that's what this is. And it's such a positive message. And we will be trying to touch base, you mentioned this year's freshmen, to see in a couple years whether they have retained their growth mindset. There are massive studies that suggest with a small intervention early in a student's career, and if they do believe it and act upon it, it has a self-reinforcing effect. And they, in fact, several years later are still more successful. So some smaller interventions can have a very long-term, very powerful, positive effect on students in their long-term growth. And that is a wonderful thing. It doesn't involve any technology, doesn't involve any new expenditure. It's just the ways in which we structure our classes and the way we support our students based on the accurate research can have a very positive effect. One other thing that is absolutely fascinating, Cal Poly is not very diverse. We're trying to have a more diverse student body and a more diverse campus. The benefits of these interventions and mindset benefit all students, but they disproportionately benefit students who are struggling with things like a stereotype, minority students, whether they're first generation, whether they're different ethnicities. Another reason why this is such a wonderful, powerful, and effective way for educators to approach what they do, so that all students have a better chance at reaching their full potential.
That is wonderful, and I'm happy you brought that one up, because somebody would think that, oh, so what has diversity got to do with my success? But I've always believed that the more you have people from different backgrounds, it improves you as a person. Anyway, our time is up, so I won't go into that. So just a quick second, what will be your advice to your fellow students listening to you this morning?
Just keep working through any difficulties you have. Remember that there are better days coming and that you can make it through a difficult class. Look past the finish line to make it through.
How about you, Leo?
I think I would have to say what Dr. O'Sullivan said, I think just have a growth mindset, I feel personally like I've seen a little bit of what he does and his department does, because I have one of those sheets of papers that the freshmen get, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. But definitely a growth mindset, just being open to new ideas. I think that's incredibly valuable. So.
And Dr. Sullivan, you have the final say.
I want to thank you for bringing, and it's wonderful to have some time with these students, the successful students, and their receptiveness. Just as faculty have been very receptive to this encouraging a growth mindset, I think it has great potential to add a wonderful enhancement to Cal Poly's culture and the success of our students, which is what we're all here for.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, listeners, for tuning in to Time with Eric on KCPR 101.3 FM and CPTV. I hope very much that you've had a valuable information that will help you succeed in your academic career. At this point, I want to thank Dr. Catherine Watts at the Science and Math Department, and then Dr. Grace Gowski for all their help and support in putting this program together. We will be right here again the same time, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. next week on Time with Eric. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.